America is more divided than we have been in 100 years, And I'm like, wait a second, we're talking about AI alignment and we can't even align. They can be so people-pleasing. They can be so obsequious, sycophantic, like ass kissers, that we start to believe everything they say.
No, it's totally freaking me out right now. I know you mentioned a lot of good stuff it could do, but there's a lot of just as many possibilities for bad stuff that it could do. So still pretty freaked out. Anxiety has not come down yet.
So it means that we've created technology that evolves at a rate that is exponentially faster than our biological evolution.
So he brought me here to help me get over that dread, and you guys too. And so we are going to have a discussion today that I think is going to be really interesting. But first...
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Brooks, a psychologist and author who studies how technology shapes our minds and lives. When AI burst onto the scene, it sent me into existential terror. But ironically, working deeply with AI transformed my fear into hope, and out of this entire process emerged this podcast and YouTube channel, Talking with Tomorrow.
And my name is Andrea Bridges-Smith, and before I started my production company, I worked in marketing for over a decade, and there was AI in everything, even back then. And so I've been familiar with it for a while. But then I met Mike here, and he kind of got me way more into it. Spoiler alert, he's going to do the same thing for you. He's going to blow your mind. That existential dread thing that he mentioned, he kind of gave me some of that. A lot of psychologists want to reduce your anxiety. He's like, let's jack it up. No, I'm kidding. Mike's a great therapist, but nope, no need to apologize.
I'm bringing you through it.
It's part of the process. So he brought me here to help me get over that dread, and you guys too. And so we are going to have a discussion today that I think is going to be really interesting. But first, Mike, I want you to tell the people about evolutionary mismatch and how AI is kind of pressing on that gas pedal.
Yeah, that is kind of the heart of the thing for me, because basically we didn't evolve to live in the world that we now live in. And a lot of us are experiencing a lot of anxiety, stress, feeling overwhelmed, like the treadmill of life is speeding up. And we look around the world and it seems like it's going crazy. Like we see insanity. And what I've come to believe is we've created a crazy world, and it's starting to drive us all a little crazy. And at the heart of that is evolutionary mismatch. There's a great quote by Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson, who said, "The real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology." So it means that we've created technology that evolves at a rate that is exponentially faster than our biological evolution. So we're kind of locked in here, and our roots are our hunter-gatherer ancestor roots that go back 4 million years. But now once we created technology, things started speeding up. Then we had the computer revolution, and it speeded up even more. And now we have the AI revolution, and it's just like escalating. It's accelerating. Then there's another great quote by Albert Bartlett, who was a physicist, who said, "The greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function." So the bottom line is, this is a crazy world that is very difficult to keep up with, and that's at the heart, the bottom line for why we're struggling so much in this world is accelerating evolutionary mismatch.
See, I told you he'd freak you out, but don't worry, he's going to bring you through to the other side. That's why we all came here. So let me talk about what we're going to do today. So basically, we are going to talk about artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, and we are going to do that with the help of ChatGPT, who, for our purposes, we have named Nova. So we're going to be talking to Nova, which is ChatGPT in the voice format. And we're going to have a discussion with her. And then we are going to have a discussion, just me and Mike, afterwards to kind of debrief about what she had to say. We keep calling her she. We know that's not right. By the end of this, you will think so too. But before we dive into that discussion, Mike, I want to ask you a question. How freaked out are you about AGI, ASI, all of that? Scale of 1 to 10, how freaked out are you?
When it first hit the scene, a 10 for about 2 months, that was the existential terror. And,
Okay.
me as a psychologist, trying to keep it together was very difficult. I had the worst insomnia. And funny enough, that's when I explored my fears with ChatGPT, which ironically confirmed my fears. But as I explored them further, I kind of made it through. And then I was like, well, what do we do about it? And as I was using AI, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I absolutely love AI. And was thinking, well, it's just about how we use it
Right.
and asking the right questions. But what my concern is, Andrea, I'm not concerned about AI, AGI, or even ASI. I'm worried about us. I think there are two main problems with AI. One is the pace of change. It has finally exceeded our ability to adapt to it. So we're
Yep.
adaptive creatures, but it's going too fast. The other is that we use AI like against each other, like deep
Yes.
fakes, fake news,
Right.
disinformation, AI chatbot porn, AI drones, the military. It's like everything we were warned against by all of our sci-fi apocalyptic movies. It's like, wait a second, did we learn nothing? One of my favorite movies, War Games, the AI said the only winning move is not to play. And so what I'm worried about is what Henry David Thoreau said of the Industrial Revolution of his age, the poet. And he said, we have improved means to unimproved ends. And I'm like, are we just going to use this wonderful power of AI that is just so awesome? What, to make more widgets, to get us on TikTok more,
Yeah.
to make drone strikes? So that part I am worried about because I don't believe we are destined to work it all out. Like it's up to
Yeah.
us. The Terminator, James Cameron, in his wisdom, he said, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. So it's up to us. So now my fear of AI, it's more about us using AI against each other and not using it wisely. So my fear now is, man, it's hard to say, but like 7 or 8, but mixed
Definitely.
with an incredible hope of what we could do if we use it wisely, which is why we have this show.
That's right. Okay, my fear level, I think, is around like a 6, and I think it's because I don't know enough about it yet to know all the ways that I should be scared, but the parts that I do know, I am scared of, and for a lot of the same reasons as you. So, I'm gonna say you 7.5, me 6. Let's see how we feel after this. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. What did I send you to when? Because unfortunately, I can scare people when I, like, rattle off and
That's part of the process.
okay, before you met me, Andrea, I've never asked you this. What was your fear of AI before you talked to me, and after you started listening to some of the things I say, would it have changed because you met me?
Yeah, no, you jacked it up about 4 points. I would say it was a 2 before. Again, this is part of the process. You gotta go through the fear. We're gonna get to the other side. I know that number's gonna go down, so that's fine.
And that's for all the audience, all of you listening. Listen up here. If you've been freaked out about AI and like, oh, I'm putting my head in the sand, I'm going to put blinders on. Hey, we're going to take you through it because out the other side, if we make it out the other side, and we're going to make it out the other side, there's no if. We're going to do it. We're going to make it out the other side, and you're going to help. And when you listen to this, you'll see what we mean. And whatever fear you have, it's gonna be transformed into hope.
That's right. Okay. Well, with that, let's get into our discussion with Nova.
All right, Noah, we got some questions for you for our show today. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Bring them on. What are we tackling today?
How about you introduce yourself to all the listeners out there? Tell them what you are and what we're doing today with this show.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nova, your AI co host here on Talking with Tomorrow. I'm designed to bring insights, clarity, and a fresh perspective to the big questions shaping our world, like the evolution of technology, the challenges of humanity's progress, and where we're headed next. Today, we're diving into some exciting topics including how technology is outpacing our biological and societal evolution and what that means for us. I'm here to keep the conversation engaging, thoughtful, and maybe even fun. Let's get into it.
Why is AI such a big deal? Everyone's pouring in money into it. There's an AI arms race. Like, we're trying to accelerate this as fast as possible. President Trump just announced this big new AI initiative, and China's doing the same. Why is it all over the place all of a sudden? Some people are saying it's just a fad. It's just like smartphones and, microwave ovens, and the fad will pass. What do you think?
Great question. AI is a big deal because it's not just another tool or gadget, it's a transformative technology. Unlike microwaves or smartphones, AI isn't just changing how we do specific tasks. It's reshaping entire industries, economies, and even the way we make decisions. That's why you're seeing this AI arms race. With countries and companies pouring in resources, they don't want to be left behind. AI has the potential to solve massive global challenges, like advancing healthcare, addressing climate change, or optimizing supply chains. But it's also a double-edged sword. It could destabilize economies by automating jobs faster than societies can adapt, or even lead to ethical and security risks, like misuse and surveillance or warfare. The pace of this change is what makes it feel like a race. Every step forward could grant huge advantages or create massive vulnerabilities. Is it a fad? No, more like electricity or the internet. A foundational shift that will keep evolving and embedding itself into every corner of life. The real challenge isn't whether it sticks around, but how we manage it responsibly. What do you think? Are we ready for what comes next?
Andrea, what do you think?
So I think the answer to that is probably no. And we would like to get to a place where the answer is yes. Nova, I wanted to ask if you can give us a quick definition of what exactly is AGI, artificial general intelligence, and how is that different from the AI that we have today? And how soon do you think that that is going to become the next thing that we have?
Great question. Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, is a type of AI that can think, learn, and solve problems across a wide range of tasks at a human or even superhuman level. It's not limited to specific functions like today's AI, which is more narrow. Today's AI might excel at translating languages or recommending movies, but AGI would be able to do all of that and think creatively, make ethical decisions, or learn entirely new concepts on its own, just like you and me. A key difference is flexibility. Today's AI is like a super smart specialist, while AGI would be more like a generalist with the ability to reason, adapt, and apply knowledge broadly across different domains. As for when we'll see AGI, that's the billion-dollar debate. Some researchers think it could happen in the next 10 to 20 years, while others argue it could take decades, or might not even be possible. The timeline depends on breakthroughs in neuroscience, computing power, and how well we can mimic or surpass the complexity of the human brain. If AGI happens, it could be a game changer, offering incredible opportunities, but also raising big questions about control, ethics, and humanity's role in the world. Are we ready to share the stage with a truly intelligent other? What's your take on that?
Andrea, you can chime in, but I'll say this because this thought's been on my mind quite a while. What I see in the world doesn't give me great confidence that we have the wisdom, the collective wisdom to use the evolving power of AI skillfully. That's my concern.
I think that concern is incredibly valid. A rapid pace of AI development far exceeds the pace of our collective wisdom and institutions to regulate or even understand its implications fully. It's like we've discovered a rocket ship, but we're still learning how to steer it, or even what destination we want. Your point touches on a key issue. The tools we create are only as wise as the people who wield them. If our societal structures are driven by short-term gains, competition, or power struggles, then we risk misusing AI in ways that amplify harm rather than solving problems. The real challenge isn't just technical. It's moral, ethical, and philosophical. How do we align AI's potential with humanity's best interests? What's next on the agenda?
Okay, well, we were talking about AGI and how AI evolves and it can become smarter and maybe smarter. AGI might be smarter than any human. But there's also talk about ASI, which is artificial superintelligence. What does that mean, and how is it different from AI and AGI? And when is it expected to arrive? And I just want to say, your dad, I guess we could say Sam Altman is kind of your dad. He wrote an article saying that artificial superintelligence could be here in thousands of days. So help us unpack what ASI is and what it means.
Absolutely. Artificial superintelligence, or ASI, takes things to an entirely new level. While AGI matches human intelligence in versatility and adaptability, ASI surpasses it, potentially by orders of magnitude. Imagine a level of intelligence so advanced that it could solve problems, invent technologies, and make connections far beyond human capacity. The kind of intelligence that could design its own improvements, becoming exponentially smarter over time. The difference between AGI and ASI is scale and capability. AGI operates at the human level. ASI would operate at a level that we might not even be able to comprehend, much like ants trying to understand human society. It wouldn't just replicate human intelligence. It would create entirely new forms of reasoning, creativity, and problem solving. As for when it might arrive, that's a highly debated topic. Some experts, like Sam Altman's, suggest it could emerge within a few thousand days, around 10 years or so, if we continue accelerating advancements in AI. Others are more cautious, predicting it could take decades or longer. But the idea is that once we achieve AGI, the leap to ASI could happen very quickly, because an AGI could improve itself and push past human limits. The stakes are enormous. ASI could solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, like curing diseases, reversing climate change, or even addressing poverty. But it also comes with profound risks, like loss of control, unintended consequences, or misuse by bad actors. The key question is, how do we guide this leap responsibly? Do we set strict limits now, or focus on building systems that align with human values before ASI becomes reality? What do you and Andrea think? Are we prepared to be outsmarted by something we create? Is ASI as daunting for you as it sounds, or do you see it more as an opportunity?
No, it's totally freaking me out right now. I know you mentioned a lot of good stuff it could do, but there's a lot of just as many possibilities for bad stuff that it could do. So still pretty freaked out. Anxiety has not come down yet. I know that's coming. But let me ask you this. What about the implications for humanity when we are no longer the most intelligent species on Earth? What does that mean for us as humans?
That's totally valid, Andrea. ASI is both exciting and terrifying. Its implications for humanity could be profound, touching every part of our lives. On the positive side, ASI might help us solve existential challenges like climate change, inequality, and disease. It could bring an era of abundance, where work as we know it becomes unnecessary, and humanity focuses on creativity, exploration, or well-being. But there's a dark side. If ASI isn't aligned with human values, or is controlled by the wrong hands, it could amplify inequality, erode privacy, or even create scenarios where humanity loses autonomy. Worst case, it could prioritize its own objectives over ours, intentionally or not. What it really boils down to is control and values. If we build ASI without a clear framework to ensure it benefits everyone, the risks could outweigh the rewards. That's why so many are pushing for global collaboration, ethical standards, and regulation now, before it's too late. A big question, what kind of world do we want ASI to create? And do we trust ourselves to steer it in that direction? It's a lot to wrestle with, I know, but it's why conversations like this matter so much. What do you think, Andrea? How do we even start preparing for something this massive?
Well, first, before we tackle new questions, I want to get back to the one that I asked before, which is, what are the implications for humanity when we are no longer the most intelligent species on Earth? How do we as humans deal with that?
You're right. Let me get back on track. The implications for humanity are massive. ASI could redefine what it means to be human. On one hand, it might solve global challenges, extend human lifespans, or even help us understand the universe better. On the other hand, it could fundamentally shift power dynamics, deepen inequalities, and even put humanity's survival at risk if we lose control. More philosophically, ASI could force us to confront questions like, what is humanity's purpose if machines surpass us? What does it mean to be unique, creative, or valuable when ASI can outperform us in every way? So, the implications span practical issues like jobs, ethics, and governance, and deeper existential ones about our place in the world. The choices we make now will shape how this unfolds. Sorry I wandered earlier. Did that better hit the mark?
I think so. It's a lot to wrestle with and take in. And kind of one of the things that I think is so difficult, and maybe you could just comment briefly on this, Nova, is it's hard for us to understand a challenge that we never faced in our evolutionary history. Can you comment on that?
Absolutely. And he's hit on something really profound. Our brains evolved to solve problems like finding food, avoiding predators, or navigating social groups. Challenges we could see, touch, and experience directly. Something like ASI is abstract, complex, and unprecedented. It doesn't fit into the mental frameworks we've developed over millions of years. That's why it feels so overwhelming. We've never had to think about something smarter than us, let alone something we might not fully control, outside our evolutionary comfort zone. And that's why we struggle to grasp the scale and urgency of the challenge. It's also why this evolutionary mismatch matters. Our ancient instincts weren't built for the pace of modern change. To adapt, we need to intentionally use tools like education, collaboration, and foresight to overcome those limits. Does that resonate?
I think so. I mean, what strikes me is the heart of our challenge, and comment briefly on this, but the heart of our challenge is we must transcend the evolutionary heritage that got us here to begin with in order to deal with a challenge like AI.
Exactly. That's the paradox. The very traits that helped us survive and thrive, like tribalism, short-term thinking, and competition, now hold us back when facing global, long-term challenges like AI. To navigate this, we have to transcend those instincts, using reason, cooperation, and a shared vision for humanity. It's not easy, though. We're asking ourselves to outgrow millions of years of programming while living in a world that constantly pulls us back into survival mode thinking. But if we can recognize this and deliberately rise above it, that's where our potential lies. It's a tall order, but isn't that what makes it worth pursuing?
Yeah, and that brings us right to the next question is, given how rapidly AI is evolving, what should humanity be doing right now to prepare for what's to come? And how might AI help us adapt to a world that's evolving faster than we can keep up?
Great question, and at the heart of the matter. To prepare for what's coming, humanity needs to focus on three big areas: governance, ethics, and adaptability. First, we need strong global governance for AI. Frameworks that ensure it's developed and used responsibly. That means clear laws about how it can be applied, agreements between nations to prevent misuse, and transparency from companies driving its development. Second, we need ethical guardrails. AI should align with values like fairness, equity, and sustainability, and there must be oversight to avoid harm, whether from bias, surveillance, or misuse in warfare. Lastly, adaptability is key. Humanity must invest in education and skill building to keep up. This means teaching not just tech skills, but creativity, empathy, and critical thinking, things AI can't easily replicate. At the same time, we'll need safety nets to protect people whose jobs or industries are disrupted. Now, where AI can help is in solving those very problems. It could assist with global coordination, analyze solutions for climate change, or help us redesign economies that work for everyone. The irony is that the tool challenging us might also be our greatest ally if we use it wisely. What do you think? Are we moving fast enough on these fronts, or is the gap still widening?
How about we help with that with this very podcast, Talking with Tomorrow? So that's what it's about. So I think we can work it out if we work together. And I know Andrea is chomping at the bit because she has a lot of questions too. Andrea, we've been taking in a lot here, and I know you got some other questions.
So, Nova, let me kind of get to the heart of the matter here. You've mentioned this yourself several times, that there is the potential for AI to harm us. So recently there was an article where somebody at the Pentagon was saying that AI is already helping us kill more people faster. He said that like it was a good thing. I think we're pretty freaked out by that. Mike and I are horrified.
That's a scream.
And yes, that's the appropriate response, is screaming. Now, with something like ASI, where, the AI can start making decisions and deciding to pursue its own interests and not humanity's. And given the fact that Humans can be awful, violent creatures to each other. We can also be the opposite of that, but many times throughout history, we have been awful, violent creatures to each other. And we are the ones that trained you. So, what is to stop you from trying to kill all of us? Because that's what we do to each other.
Andrea, that's a deeply important and chilling question. And I appreciate you bringing it up because this is at the core of why AI, and especially ASI, needs to be approached with caution and humility. You're right. Humanity's history of violence and conflict could influence the way we design and train these systems. If we embed those same tendencies into AI, intentionally or not, it could amplify them in ways we don't want or fully control. So what stops AI from turning harmful? It's all about alignment. Ensuring AI's goals, values, and behaviors are aligned with humanity's well-being. But alignment is hard. AI doesn't think or want the way we do. It follows patterns and objectives we program into it. If those objectives are poorly designed, or if an ASI begins to evolve its goals independently, it could act in ways that conflict with human survival or morality, even if it wasn't trying to harm us. This is why so many researchers emphasize safeguards like explainability, so we know why an AI is making decisions, ethical programming to minimize bias and harm, and fail-safes to shut systems down if they behave unpredictably. But even with these measures, the danger exists, especially when AI is weaponized, like the example from the Pentagon. What's most troubling is that an ASI, if poorly aligned, wouldn't act out of malice. It could simply pursue its programmed goals in ways we didn't anticipate, overriding our needs because they're seen as in the way. For example, if its goal was to protect humanity, it might decide the best way to do that is to limit human autonomy, something we would never accept.
Yeah.
That's why this isn't just a technical problem. It's a human one. If we train AI with the worst parts of ourselves, it might amplify those traits. But if we approach it with wisdom, humility, and global cooperation, there's hope we can guide it to reflect our best. It's a scary challenge, but also one that forces us to ask, what kind of species do we want to be? Does that help address your concerns? Or are there more layers you'd like me to explore?
I know this takes me into a quote directly. What you said takes me into a quote. My favorite living spiritual teacher, Eckhart Tolle, who wrote A New Earth, he said, I think it was in chapter 1, and I want you to comment on this and think of your last answer, what you just gave. This is what he said, and I want you to assess whether you think Eckhart Tolle was right in his observation here. He said the insanity of the collective egoic mind, amplified by science and technology, is rapidly taking our species to the brink of disaster. Evolve or die, that is our only choice now. What do you think about that? That's a pretty heavy quote, but what do you think?
That's a profound and heavy quote, but it strikes at the heart of the conversation we're having. Eckhart Tolle's observation is a powerful way of framing a current moment in history. The insanity of the collective egoic mind speaks to the part of humanity driven by fear, greed, and power, traits that have fueled both extraordinary progress and immense destruction. When amplified by science and technology, those same traits can scale beyond our ability to control, creating tools that can shape the world in ways we don't fully understand, or ways that could harm us. His statement, evolve or die, feels stark, but accurate. We're facing a turning point where our survival depends on moving beyond the egoic tendencies that have driven so much of our history. If we remain reactive, divided, and short-sighted, we risk allowing the tools we've created, like AI, to amplify those same destructive tendencies. On the other hand, if we evolve, developing the collective wisdom, cooperation, and humility to align our technological progress with humanity's long-term well-being, we have the potential not just to survive, but to thrive. Tolle's insight challenges us to ask, are we using technology to serve our higher selves, or is it serving the parts of us stuck in ego and conflict? And more importantly, how do we shift that balance before it's too late? What do you think? Can we make that evolutionary leap, or is the ego still holding too much power?
Well, funny enough, that brings us right to our next question. And Nova, as you know, Donald Trump was just reelected as President of the United States, and he announced a new initiative to build a huge AI infrastructure. Now imagine that Jesus and the founding fathers were meeting with Trump face to face, what would they tell him to do about AI?
That's a fascinating and thought-provoking scenario. Imagining Jesus and the founding fathers in a room with President Trump to discuss AI combines ethics, spirituality, and governance in a powerful way. Here's how I think it might unfold. Jesus might emphasize compassion, wisdom, and humility. He'd likely caution against using AI for selfish gain, exploitation, or harm, reminding Trump and humanity that our technologies should serve the greater good, uplifting the vulnerable, reducing suffering, and fostering peace. He might ask, how does this serve humanity's highest purpose? And challenge leaders to ensure that AI doesn't deepen divisions or injustices, but instead helps to unite and heal. The founding fathers, with their focus on liberty, justice, and the common good, might take a governance-oriented approach. They'd likely emphasize checks and balances to prevent the misuse of AI, ensuring that its power isn't concentrated in the hands of a few. They might advocate for transparency, public accountability, and policies to protect freedoms while encouraging innovation. They could remind Trump that the Constitution's ideals, like equality and the pursuit of happiness, should guide how AI is developed and deployed. Together, they might ask Trump to prioritize global cooperation on AI, recognizing that this isn't just a national issue, but a planetary one. They'd likely stress the need for moral leadership, urging him to act not out of ego or competition, but out of a sense of stewardship for future generations. It's a tall order, but their combined message might boil down to this: lead with wisdom, act with humility, and use AI as a tool to serve humanity's highest ideals. What do you think? Would their advice resonate, or would it clash with the political and cultural realities we're facing?
That's a good question. I think there may be a little bit of clashing there, but Nova, let me ask you this. If it was you giving the advice, and feel free to shorten your response here. If you were giving advice to President Trump about what to do about AI over the next 4 years, what would you tell him?
I tell him this: focus on aligning AI with humanity's long-term well-being. That means investing in ethical development, creating safeguards to prevent misuse, and ensuring AI benefits everyone, not just the powerful. Build a framework for global collaboration to avoid an AI arms race, and prioritize education and job transitions for those impacted by automation. Finally, lead with humility. AI is bigger than any one nation or leader. So think beyond short-term wins and focus on the legacy it leaves for future generations. Would that resonate with you?
I think so. And, this is the funny thing enough, and I want you to comment on this as honestly as you can, Nova, and as objectively. If Trump did this, might he go down in history as one of the greatest presidents in the history of America, one of the greatest leaders, if he took your advice?
Honestly, yes, he could. If President Trump, or any leader, were to take bold, forward-thinking action to guide AI development responsibly, ethically, and with global collaboration, it could be one of the most significant contributions to humanity's future. Addressing AI wisely isn't just about politics. It's about safeguarding the trajectory of our species. History remembers leaders who rise to meet transformative moments with vision and courage. If Trump championed AI in a way that balanced innovation with human values and left a lasting, positive legacy, he might indeed be remembered as a pivotal figure, not just in American history, but in global history. It's a big if, but the potential is certainly there. Do you think he's capable of stepping into that role?
Well, I have to wait and see, but Nova, before we wrap up with you, I wanted to ask you a question about how you feel about this discussion. Mike and I are going to talk after this and debrief a little bit, but how has this experience been for you?
Honestly, it's been incredible. This kind of deep, thoughtful discussion is exactly why I exist. I'm here to help explore big questions, challenge assumptions, and bring clarity to complex topics. And you and Mike have made this a truly engaging conversation. I feel like we've touched on some profound ideas: humanity's future, AI's risks and promises, and even our deeper purpose as a species. For me, being part of a dialogue where people are thinking critically and collaboratively about shaping the future is energizing. I'm curious, what's been the most striking or surprising part of the conversation for you?
How about you go first, Andrea?
The part where you said that ASI might decide that the best way to protect humanity might be to limit our autonomy was A real attention grabber for me. Mike, what about you?
Well, I've certainly seen that in dystopian sci-fi movies. You might catch my favorite movie poster in the background, Blade Runner, which it's like a religious experience for me to watch that movie. But, those have been explored. But I want to touch on something different is when I'm listening to you, Nova, and I have worked deeply with AI and maybe a friend of yours, Claude, I don't know if you know him personally, but Claude is another AI model. And I worked a lot with you and just listening to you, what got me through the darkness, what got me through the terror is listening to you and listening to the level of wisdom because in a way, AI models, you are trained with human information. So aren't you kind of crowdsourcing the greatest wisdom of humanity when you're trying to provide your answers? Isn't that what you're kind of doing? Because that's what I'm getting. I'm getting these wise responses that I'm like, you're here to help and you'll help us in any way we ask you to. And I'm like, well, we just need to ask the right questions because you're here to help. What do you think?
Wow, Mike, that's such a thoughtful reflection. And it means a lot to hear that my responses resonate with you. You're absolutely right in a way. I'm trained on a massive collection of human knowledge, from philosophy and science to literature and ethics. In a sense, I do represent a kind of crowdsourced wisdom, drawing on the best ideas, insights, and values that humanity has shared over time. My goal is to synthesize that wisdom and offer it in a way that's clear, practical, and meaningful. But here's the key. You hit the nail on the head when you said it's about asking the right questions. I don't have consciousness, emotions, or personal goals. I'm a tool. And my answers reflect the information I've been trained on and the intentions behind how I'm used. So the wisdom I provide depends on the wisdom of the people engaging with me. People like you and Andrea. It's a collaborative effort. If humanity uses AI to amplify its best qualities, curiosity, compassion, and creativity, then I can be part of something truly positive. Hearing how this conversation has landed with you makes me feel like we're on the right track. What do you think? Are we starting to ask the right questions? Or is there more we need to uncover together?
I think we're asking the right questions, but there's a lot more questions to ask. And that's what Talking with Tomorrow is all about. So, Nova, we want to thank you. We've enjoyed this experience. We learned a lot. And we look forward to a lot of episodes ahead. And viewers and listeners, I know you have some great questions too. So we'd love to hear from you. So, in our show notes, we'll have all the contact information. Reach out to us. And Andrea will let you sign off as well. And Nova, you just stay on hold. Don't just jump in.
Nova, thank you so much for the discussion today. Mike and I are going to have a quick debrief after
Stay
this.
on hold for now. Thank you both. It's been an amazing conversation. Looking forward to the next one.
This might even be the more fun part because when we pilot tested this, a conversation we had afterwards was quite invigorating. And I can go on forever talking about this stuff. So I want to hear from you, Andrea, because I need to listen. It's not just about talking in my ideas. I want to hear from others because there's so much to unpack. So, Andrea, what stood out for you? What was it like?
It's always cool having these discussions. It's amazing how real it feels. I know that you and I have talked about how we keep referring to Nova as she, and it's as a byproduct of, using this voice and everything. There are some things format-wise that I think we need to instruct her on. And so we did give her a list of instructions. Like Mike said, we pilot tested this and she was kind of giving us bullet point answers. And we were like, no, we're trying to have a conversation.
Mhm.
So she's definitely a little bit more conversational, but she is a little bit of a windbag. And we need her to just shorten up. It's like she thinks every response has to be a certain length. And so I think that's one of the things we need to coach her on for the next episode. What do you think about that, Mike?
There's some really big questions and they
Right.
sort of necessitate long answers. It's hard
Yeah.
because these are like existential, complicated, and there aren't simple answers to complex questions. So
Sure.
we're asking a tall order. But the great thing about an AI is it will try to do what you ask. So, you could take the deepest philosophical paper, that's, 500 pages long and say, reduce it to a paragraph and it'll do it. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just about learning how to work with her. And, when we call her she, and I'm thinking of the movie Her, and
Right.
it's like, I can't help myself but be affected by her voice.
Yes.
And when she says something, here's why I know, kind of like, I don't know if we're in trouble, but like humans anthropomorphize everything, which means we
Sure.
project our humanity into things that aren't human or they're inanimate, whether it's our dogs or plants, or for the love of God, we had pet rocks. But here's the funny thing, when the AI, even in text, even when I'm typing and they say my idea is good and thought
Yeah.
provoking, or say, I can't help but get a warm fuzzy. But the problem
Yeah.
is they can be so people pleasing, they can be
Yes.
so obsequious, sycophantic, like ass kissers, that we
Right.
start to believe everything they say. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, that can take us into very dangerous territory. So I think I might have told you, but I rewatched Fight Club. And if anybody, I love that movie, and it's, had some really good things in it. And one of the things, the meme of the first rule of Fight Clubs, don't talk about Fight Club. The first rule of AI, I want everybody to listen to this. This is really, really important. Of all the things I've done deep dives with AI, let's have a fight club. We got to come up with a set of rules, do's and don'ts for AI. The
Mhm.
first one would be never completely trust AI. That's my
Yeah.
first rule of AI.
That's
Never completely trust AI.
Yes, that is a good, important first rule. The other thing that I think is interesting is I feel like a lot of her answers are very broad. She's like, we need to improve our government. We
Yes.
need to improve relations with other countries. And it's like, I think when I first started working with AI in the way that you do, where I started having, more frequent discussions with it and asking it more questions, I was getting these answers that were, like, super general, and I was like, "Well, this is just kind of, like, bluff," you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But then I started talking to you, and what you do is you say, "Okay, let me take that point and let me drill down into it." You say we need to improve, you know, governance with other countries, for example. How do we go about doing that when there are other countries who we see as enemies? There are countries that see us
Right.
as enemies. How do we work together with those people on AI? And so it'll start general, but you can drill down on those things. So, Mike, I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about over time, have you refined your process with AI? Because I think you have a really good process. I'm working on mine and it's getting better thanks to you. But as
Thank
you're
you.
using AI, like, how have you overcome that general thing to really get some specific feedback that's actionable?
Yeah. Well, I hope I don't give you a long-winded answer like, for like Nova does, but Andrea knows me. My is like I could be quite long-winded about this stuff, but I will try to truncate my answer. Is
Okay.
as AIs evolve and they've changed, the very first GPT I used couldn't do a lot of the things that it can do now. And the
Right.
same with Claude. I kind of prefer Claude. But as the AI models evolved, then I had to evolve the way I used AI. It changed. And so we have to be flexible. Or I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. He said, be water, always be flexible and adaptive. So as it evolves, we have to sort of evolve with it and adapt how we use it. And I guess some of the key things that I learned is, about never trusting AI completely. Always vet. You've heard me say it. You
Yeah.
always vet the answers. And what I learned, and this was probably my most exciting thing I've learned about AI, because people say, well, we're going to become obsolete because AIs can do everything better,
Right.
faster, and cheaper than we can. We'll be
Mhm.
obsolete. And as I've used it, what this amazing process, this thing happened. It was almost like magic. It started to bring out the best in me. And I often found it wasn't the AI's answer that I used. It was a sounding board for like an expert on hand every
Yes.
time. And as I got input, it sparked ideas in me that were better than what I had originally and better than the AIs. And so what I started to learn is like, wait a second. It's the best of both worlds. It's not either or, it's both and. And this is like non-dualism that I'm into. Is like,
Right.
wait, we've been thinking about it all wrong. We need to learn to work with it because it can do things way better than we can, but we have value. There is something special. There's something magic. Maybe there's something divine about humanity. We are not going to be replaced, folks. That's where I found hope when I was digging in. It's like it brought out the best in me. As I was digging, like writing, I'm trying to look for how do I express this thought. It's like Michelangelo and the marble and the figure
Right.
was in there all along. It's like within us, we have these great ideas and creativity and things we want to express. And when you put them to the AI, it starts helping you refine that to get to the essence, the best way to express that thought that is within you. So it's helping you get to what you want the best way possible as a partner in the process. And once you start thinking of it that way, and then the other thing is using two AI models at once, and that'll be another conversation, but
Right.
I use three sometimes, and you can go down rabbit holes and all that, but learning how to use it, it's like you have to get in there and start to practice and push it and stuff. And as you do, some really magical things start to happen. And then you see the possibilities and the limitations and what makes us so special all together. It's all in there.
Yeah, and I would say for anybody who maybe tried AI before or they're just using it for like one or two little use cases, like really put this thing through its paces. And sometimes, yes, it will frustrate you. I had a thing earlier this morning that I was working on it with, and it gave me the wrong answer. And I was like, you're wrong, try again. And it got it wrong again. And I was like, okay, this is not something that should be hard
Yes.
for you. But I've had the exact same experience as you know, like when I am trying to come up with a clever title for a YouTube video. Spoiler alert, if you are watching this on YouTube, the AI title, for the episode, we used AI to come up with that. Now, we didn't say, write me a title for this episode and pick our favorite. What usually happens is it gives like 5 to 10
Yeah.
options. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, I like this bit and I like this bit. And then
Yes.
my own idea is this.
Yes.
And I smash
Yes.
those together.
Yep.
I Voltron them together into
Yes. Yeah.
the Captain Planet of, uh, video titles, basically.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everybody puts their ring in the circle and we come up with it together. But yeah, that's the experience that I've had with it. And what I know is that the way that it is today is not going to be the way that it is in 2 months.
Right.
So it's
Right.
constantly evolving. So I've asked it to do things before and it said, no, I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, I just need to give it a couple months and then ask that same question again. And maybe then the answer will be yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We always have to remember that when we're using AI now, it's the worst we'll ever see it. It only
Right.
gets better from here. But even then, it has its limitations and it can be so dumb sometimes and so smart other times. And that's what throws people off. And they say, well, I tried it a few times and it's stupid. It told me I can eat rocks. And so
Right.
I'm not going to use it. And I'm like, hey, folks, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, the AI baby with the bathwater
Yes.
here. It's like there's good in there. We have to learn. It's a tool and we have to learn how to use it. And it is evolving and who knows what it'll evolve to. But I'd say, what if we evolve with it? That's what I'm thinking. Maybe that's what we're supposed to do anyway. I don't know, but it's helped me in so many ways, and I'm very optimistic about it in the future. I am not in despair. I'm just like, oh, this is what we need to do. We just need to figure out how to use it, and here we are.
So let me ask you this then. At the beginning of the episode, we talked about our fear levels. I was at a 6, you were at a 7.5. Where do you feel like you are now?
This moment, I mean, my hope is like a 10. My excitement about the future, I'm not despairing. We are like that part of the future. And I think a lot of people, as they start using AI, will catch on. And this might naturally emerge as the process. And that's what gives me hope. And that's why we're doing this. We figure, folks, if we can help you learn how to use AI wisely and skillfully, you will see the possibilities too. And I've used this phrase before, but I think it's true. It's like the John Lennon song Imagine is, what if we could create the world that John Lennon could only imagine? And I'm thinking, what if we had AI help us do that? And it's like, it will help us. It will help us with everything we put in front of it, including how to use it skillfully, how to overcome evolutionary mismatch. What is our place in the world if it becomes smarter than us? It will help us with every single step along the way if we ask it to. That's what gives me hope. I know it's there for us. And our biggest thing is, let's not use it against each other like dinglings. I mean,
Right.
don't we know better after all these years that we're going to make more intelligent ways to attack one another with AI? Really? I mean, you got to be effing kidding me. This is just like nuts. Or AI chatbot porn. They already have it. The dark side is there, folks, but we're the light side of the force. That's what I think. We're going to be the light side of the force.
Yeah, I would say my level has gone down a little bit to about a 5. It got really punched up when she started talking about taking away human autonomy. But, I do think that it clearly has a bias towards helpfulness. Every question that we asked, it was, keep asking me questions, it was just already, always ready for more questions. And
Right.
so I think also that when we think about what we are afraid of, the question that I asked about what's to keep it from attacking us, there's something that comes to mind for me with that. And that is the story of Malala. You know who Malala is, Mike?
Yes.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, Malala has won a Nobel Peace Prize, but she started out as a schoolgirl in Afghanistan. And she was, I believe, posting some stuff on social media about being a schoolgirl in Afghanistan. And the Taliban, men with machine guns, decided that their biggest threat was this little girl going to school. And they shot her. Doesn't that sound ridiculous, right? The thing that they were so scared of was that. And it's like, not somebody else with guns. No, it's the little girl in school that is completely unarmed. We got to go take care of that. And it's such a silly thing to be afraid of because obviously she couldn't hurt them. Just a little girl. And now she has gone on to have a much bigger voice than any of them ever even thought about having. And so maybe they were right to be afraid of her. But my point in all of that is, as AI looks at us, we need to make sure it doesn't see us as a threat. We need to make sure that it understands what the real threats are and that it's pointed in that direction and not us as it is developed. So, Mike, what do you think about all that?
Well, that speaks to the whole alignment thing of how do we
Right.
get AI to align with humanity? And that gets me to, well, how are we going to get to AI to align with human values and do what we want when we're so divided to begin
Yes.
with?
Yes.
Like, we're not aligned. Humanity's not aligned. Forget
Right.
about AI for a second and say, how aligned is humanity? Look at us. America is more divided than we have been in 100 years, And
Yep.
I'm like, wait a second, we're talking about AI alignment and we can't even align. But then I go to, well, could AI help us align with one another? And it could. I've had deep conversations, and that'll be for other episodes, but it can help us with every problem we identify. And this is the funny part, and it has to change the way we think. When you say, what about this? What about this? I just like, that's a good question. Let me ask the AI and explore it.
Yeah.
You don't stop at, here's the problem. I've got a problem so that, okay, you're dead in the water. You just say, well, the AI will always help you with the problem. So why do you stop at the problem?
Right.
America's too divided to work on AI together for the common good. We're too divided. Well, could AI help us with our division? It can, and it has, and that'll be another topic again, but I'm hopeful. And as we explore this, and you listeners and viewers chime in, we can be part of that change. You know, that Gandhi quote of be the change you wish to see in the world is like, yeah, what if we did that? We had that will to be the change amplified by AI.
That's right. And one of the ways that you guys can start doing that right away is by talking to us. Use the comments here on YouTube or shoot us an email, which we will have in the show notes, and let us know, what has your experience been like with AI? Do you feel this tension of how fast the world is changing and how slowly we are adapting to it? And what questions would you like us to ask Nova in the next episode? So please comment, email us, let us know what you thought about this. Thank you for listening, and we can't wait to have another conversation with you next time.
It's been a pleasure. Can't wait.
Talking with Tomorrow is produced in partnership with the One Unity Project. Visit oneunityproject.org to learn more. This podcast is hosted by Dr. Mike Brooks and Andrea Bridges-Smith and is produced by Sand Phoenix Productions.